Hello, my name is Michael Greger. I'm a physician, an MD, a general practitioner in Boston, specializing in vegetarian nutrition, a topic I've been writing, speaking, researching about for about a decade now. In fact, I just took a year off to go travel around the country and speak on this topic, and the nice thing about that versus a video like this is I actually get to sit down and talk with people, answer questions, you know. That's usually the best part. So let me give you my contact information. My personal cell phone is 857-928-2778. My email address is mhg1@cornell.edu. That's mhg, just the numeral 1, at cornell.edu. And my website is www.veganmd.org, veganmd.org. Please feel free to call or write me anytime for anything. Literally, I actually spend a good part of every day kind of helping people one-on-one like that. So please feel free to use me as a resource in your quest for better health. June 2003, the American Dietetics Association released their latest position paper on vegetarian diets. According to the ADA, there is evidence that vegetarians have lower rates of several of the chronic degenerative diseases that plague the Western world, like obesity. Vegetarians have lower rates of obesity. Less heart disease, less high blood pressure, less diabetes, less cancer, and not just the big killers. Right? Vegetarians also seem to have less arthritis, and kidney disease, and gallbladder disease, and, you know, hemorrhoids, constipation, diverticulosis, even appendicitis. The list goes on and on. How much of these diseases can be attributed to meat, however? Well, up to 2/3 of the high blood pressure in this country is because of meat eating. About 1/4 of the heart disease, maybe 40% of the cancer, 1/3 of the diabetes. Almost 3/4 of all gallbladder disease caused by meat. Almost all the food poisoning, of course, and half of the obesity, meat. The U.S. Surgeon General has said that 2 out of 3 Americans die because of what they eat, which makes the standard American diet officially suicidal. That's why I'm a vegetarian doctor. So whether you want to try to align your life with your values of justice and compassion, or just want to eat healthier, vegetarianism is a great gift you can give to yourself and your family. Millions of Americans have already made the transition, and the only way you're going to know whether it's right for you is to give it a try and see how you feel. You know, just like it's never too late to stop smoking or start exercising, it's never too late to start eating healthy. Isn't it hard to go vegetarian? No, open heart surgery, that's hard. Eating spaghetti is easy, but no, seriously, I mean, it takes about 3 weeks to change any habit. And so I recommend trying vegetarianism like a free sample. You know, try it for months and see how you feel. And if you do it right, you'll see your weight go down, your diabetes get better, your cholesterol go down, your high blood pressure go down. Right? And this video is all about doing it right. Of course, health is not the only reason people go vegetarian. They also do it for the health of the animals and the health of the planet. That's what I like about vegetarianism. Everything. Arguably the most ethical diet just so happens to be the most environmentally sound diet, which just so happens to be the healthiest. Well, ain't that convenient? Right? And indeed, if you're motivated, you can find countless resources as to the whys to go vegetarian. This is actually probably my favorite, this brochure called Vegetarian Living, put out by a wonderful organization called Vegan Outreach. But you know, there's less out there as to the hows to go vegetarian, kind of practical tips on making the transition, and that's what I'd like to spend time on here. You know, there are a few resources. There's one put out by the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine called their Vegetarian Starter Kit, probably one of my favorite starter kits. There's a number of beginner guides out now, and so I recommend that everyone go to the website of the Boston Vegetarian Society, which is www.bostonveg.org, and it links to all of these starter kits if you'd like to read them. To make this talk as inclusive and comprehensive as possible, I'm going to talk about how people go vegan. Vegans are vegetarians that strive to exclude all animal products from their diet. You know, animal suffering, health, and environmental concerns apply just as well to eggs and dairy as well, but certainly this video is appropriate for those that are just trying to reduce or eliminate the flesh foods from their diet. Okay, well, how do you do it? Some people do just go cold tofu, and, you know, usually because of some sudden event in their life, like a heart attack, or like Lisa Simpson, you know, making the connection between the frolicking fluffy lamb and the chopped up one on her plate. But research shows that most people transition to vegetarianism, and the importance of setting one's own pace. You know, like anything in life, you know, breaking something down to smaller pieces, you know, makes it not so overwhelming. It's easier to handle that way. Well, how do people transition? Well, you know, kind of this traditional method has been to start with, you know, the standard American diet, or SAD, and then, you know, cut out red meat, and then kind of maybe move to chicken, and kind of so on and so forth. But, you know, whether you're doing it for your health, the animals, the environment, these foods aren't much better. So instead of cutting out categories of meat, some people have found the so-called 3-dinner method more useful. How this works is you start by trying to make 3 totally meatless dinners a week. And then, you know, it allows you to start experimenting with new foods, new cuisines. So you have a feeling that you're adding to your diet instead of taking away. And so, and then, certainly once you're comfortable with that, you can move to more veggie suppers a week, and then move to lunch and breakfast. You know, this method is similar to the Meatless Mondays campaign launched 2003 by the Johns Hopkins School of Public Health and 28 other public health schools, trying to get Americans to at least cut out meat for one day of the week for better health. My favorite method is that which has been described here in the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine pamphlet, called the 3-step method. And that's based on research that shows, you know, the average American family only eats like 8 or 9 dinners, which they just kind of rotate through repeatedly through the month. So the question becomes, well, where am I going to find 8 or 9 vegetarian meals that I enjoy? The 3-step method. Hi, I'm Michael, I'm a vegetarian. No, the 3-step method. Step 1. You sit down and list all the dinners that you currently eat. You know, many people are surprised to find out how much they already eat that's vegetarian. So, pasta primavera, or vegetable stir fry, or spaghetti with marinara sauce. And so the goal of step number 1 is to try to think of 3 vegetarian meals that you already enjoy. All right? 3 down, 6 to go. Step 2. Think of 3 meals that you already enjoy that could be easily adapted to a vegetarian menu. So, for example, you know, eat beef burritos. Well, you can just as easily eat bean burritos, right? Using vegetarian, organic, refined beans from the can, right? Cheaper, easier, healthier, right? Or use chicken broth. You can certainly use vegetable broth. You know, a lot of soup, stews, casseroles, you know, chilies, the classic example, can be easily vegetarianized or veganized with but a few simple changes. And finally, my favorite step, step number 3, exploring new veggie options. Your diet should be a celebration. There are literally hundreds of vegetarian cookbooks out there. If you actually want to buy one, my favorite one is this, called The Compassionate Cook. The reason I love this one so much is because it doesn't have any weird ingredients. Everything's really easy to make. Almost everything I've tried in it is just awesome. But, you know, no reason to spend a penny. Go to your local public library, and odds are there'll be not just shelves of cookbooks, but shelves of vegetarian cookbooks. You know, interestingly, most vegetarians actually report more variety in their diet than they ever had as a meat eater. They feel like they're having a better variety, eating more creative, you know, things than they ever had on a non-vegetarian diet. So grab a few cookbooks, start experimenting, go online, find some recipes, until you can find 3 vegetarian meals that you can enjoy and prepare easily. And then, just like that, with a few simple changes, you've got your 9 dinners and you're off. Moving to breakfast and lunch can be easy. I can show you how. You know, normally when I give this presentation, you know, I pass out little slips of paper to everyone, have them fill out, you know, what they regularly have for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then we kind of make a sample menu out of it. But these are some of the things that, you know, traveling across the country people say. You know, so for breakfast, they're having bacon, sausage, bagel, some cereal. For lunch, oh, soup, sandwich, hot dog or something. And then for dinner, it's, you know, pizza, pasta, something like that. You know, Hawaii was the only place where someone actually put down Spam for dinner. But let's pretend this is someone's food repertoire, right? So, you know, sometimes they have a bagel with cream cheese, other times, you know, whatever, throughout the day. And so let's go through the steps. Step number 1, what is this person already eating that's vegetarian? Or let's say vegan, no meat, eggs, or dairy, all right? Vegetable soup, maybe. French fries. Not doing so good on step number 1, all right? Well, let's try step number 2. Maybe we'll have more luck, all right? So instead of eating bacon, this person could eat veggie bacon. This Canadian vegetarian bacon, 0 saturated fat. Absolutely, it's amazing stuff. Fills up your kitchen with a whole kind of bacony aroma. Can't even tell the difference, right? Bagel with cream cheese, well, one can have a bagel with better than cream cheese, right? This is a Tofutti product, non-dairy cream cheese. There's also, indeed, vegetarian breakfast links, vegetarian sausages. You know, let's compare this to the meat equivalent. You know, a typical, animal-derived breakfast links has up to 5 teaspoons of lard in each serving, right? 5 spoonfuls of lard. And for breakfast, right? These have 0 saturated fat. All right? Waffles, well, Eggo waffles have eggs in them, not surprisingly, and so have saturated fat and cholesterol. There's a number of healthy toaster waffles on the market now, like these flax waffles. 3 times the fiber and just a fraction of the fat. Scrambled eggs? Well, indeed, scrambled tofu. Doesn't really taste like scrambled eggs, but it's yellow and tastes pretty good in its own right. So, cereal with milk. How about cereal with soy milk? Right? You can buy this right in the dairy case, right next to the regular milk, right? I mean, it tastes great. It's just like milk. I actually like the plain flavor better than the vanilla, better than the blue container. But, this stuff has, all the calcium, vitamin D, and all that, right? But unlike cow's milk, has 0 trans fats, 0 butter fat, 0 saturated fat, 0 pesticides, no antibiotics, and no pus. There's actually a lot of pus in the American milk supply because there's an epidemic of mastitis or udder inflammation among American dairy cows. In fact, the United States has the highest upper limit of permitted pus cell concentration in the world, almost twice the international standard of allowable pus. That's like a drop of pus per glass. Now, it's cooked pus, right? I mean, it's pasteurized, right? So it's probably not harmful, but it is kind of gross. Not only is soy milk pusless, but it also has zinc and iron and those wonderful phytoestrogens that protect you from heart disease, cancer, and osteoporosis, right? And it's organic. And even comes in chocolate. Oh, this stuff is addictive. Totally wonderful. You can also buy these so-called aseptic containers of soy milk. So this, you won't find this in the dairy case. You can find this right on the shelf. You can keep these unopened for a year on your shelf, unrefrigerated, no preservatives again, but again, can be very convenient. Right? All right, waffles. Well, Eggo waffles have eggs in them, not surprisingly, so have saturated fat and cholesterol. There are a number of healthy toaster waffles on the market now. So, for example, these flax waffles have 3 times the fiber and a fraction of the fat. And then scrambled eggs. Well, what about scrambled tofu? It doesn't really taste like scrambled eggs, but it's yellow and tastes pretty good in its own right. Moving on to lunch. Well, if you can make soy milk, then you can make soy yogurt, right? This is actually my favorite brand, whole soy. And again, half the calories, half the fat, 0 saturated fat, no butter fat, no trans fats, unlike the cow's milk yogurt. In terms of a cold cut sandwich, well, how about veggie ham, veggie bologna, veggie salami, veggie pastrami, veggie turkey, even veggie hickory smoked turkey, right? And for those who like tuna salad sandwiches, there's even a vegetarian tuna called Tuno. Even says on the site, says vegetarian, dolphin, and tuna friendly. I love that. And so you take your eggless mayonnaise, right, some celery and some tuna, and you have your your tuna salad sandwich. Everyone has their favorite brand of veggie dog. I actually like the Yves, Y-V-E-S brand, right? These have zero saturated fat. Compare that to like an Oscar Mayer beef frank, which have 3 teaspoons of tallow or beef fat in every single serving, right? These have 0 saturated fat. And then veggie burgers. Actually, my favorite veggie burger is actually these Boca burgers, right? 0 fat, 0 cholesterol, compared to, for example, a regular beef patty, which has 8 teaspoons of tallow per every patty. This has 0 fat. All right? French fries, not particularly healthy, but usually vegetarian. Chicken McNuggets, well, how about chicken-free nuggets? These, actually have it's like fake gristle with like tendons, ligaments, or something. I don't know. But, hey, if you like chicken nuggets, these have 8 times less fat than the nuggets made from chickens. All right, mac and cheese, well, how about mac and cheese? The person, instead of mac and cheese, can eat mac and cheese, right? This is organic, whole grain, 16 times less fat than Kraft macaroni and cheese, and this has 0 saturated fat. So for dinner, this person, baked potatoes, fine, but instead of sour cream, how about, again, better than sour cream, another non-dairy tofu product. What about Bakos, though? Oh, gotta love Bakos. Well, instead of Bakos, how about Bakos? Bakos have always been totally plant-based, which of course just goes to show how little of the flavor of bacon actually has to do with, lining of a pig's stomach. It's really just the spices. All right, mashed potatoes and gravy. Well, how about, this is actually one of my favorite vegetarian substitution foods, this Hain vegetarian chicken-flavored gravy. Fool all your vegetarian friends. It has this really rich, chicken, fatty kind of flavor to it. Cheap, fat-free, easy to make, absolutely wonderful. I know what you're thinking, though. No giblets, right? Wrong. Vegetarian giblet gravy. Yes, I don't even know what giblets are, but it's got these like fake little squishy tofu things. I don't know. All right. Spaghetti with pesto. Well, pesto usually has Parmesan cheese in it. There is a non-dairy Parmesan cheese on the market now. It has that same kind of moldy, aged, stinky smell, just like the regular stuff. Oh, I love this stuff. Put it on everything. Spaghetti with meatballs. Well, how about spaghetti with Nate's meatless meatballs? Fortunately, they were all sold out at the store, so I don't have a package for you. But N-A-T-E''S, meatless meatballs. I take them to potlucks with me, just microwave and put toothpicks, have people dip barbecue sauce. Everyone wonders where they came from. I said, no, I didn't bring it because they know I'm vegetarian, but they're ultra meaty tasting, great on spaghetti. Tacos, well, there is veggie ground round on the market, right? 0 fat, right? Compared to like 4 teaspoons of tallow in a serving of even extra lean ground beef. There's even a pre-Mexi flavored ground beef substitute that you can use. You don't even have to add the taco seasonings, right? And, if you look really close, cholesterol-free, preservative-free, fat-free, meat-free, no E. coli, right? I was actually going to bring some, meat products so we can do kind of side-by-side comparisons. Take a chicken leg and I can actually dissect it for you, show you all the tendons and stuff. Don't call it gross anatomy for nothing. But I didn't want to drip any of the chicken juice on anything, kind of contaminate the kitchen, right? Chickens don't have juice, right? That's what's in that package is like blood and fecal soup. Let me do a quick tangent on food safety. According to the Centers for Disease Control, every year 76 million Americans get food poisoning. If you do the math, that's like 1 in 4, right? Remember that 24-hour flu you had last year? Well, there's no such thing as a 24-hour flu. You got food poisoning. Today's food safety lottery, we Americans have about a 1 in 840 chance of being hospitalized and about 1 in 55,000 that we Americans will die every year from foodborne illness. It happens in our restaurants. Thousands of Americans go out to eat and kind of don't come back. It happens in our schools, tragically. The cases of food poisoning among American school children is increasing at a rate of about 10% every year, according to a recent congressional report. And it happens in our homes. Year after year, for example, USDA surveys show that 9 out of 10 Thanksgiving turkeys are contaminated with Campylobacter, the most common bacterial cause of food poisoning. And 75% of those birds are contaminated with 2 or more foodborne illnesses, most often salmonella is the second one, and salmonella is growing dangerously resistant to 5 major classes of antibiotics. Of course, there's still that jack-in-the-box E. coli 015787. You know, in summer 2002, ConAgra recalled 19 million pounds of beef in the United States, the second biggest beef recall in history. You know, my question is, where's the outrage? If 19 million pounds of beef distributed to half the country were infected with a deadly strain of E. coli by terrorists, we'd be going nuts, right? But when it's one of the most powerful corporations in the U.S., ConAgra, it is just business as usual. Now, consumers barely twitch when the corporate machine that controls our food supply ships out another load of meat tainted with feces. I mean, these are fecal pathogens. You know, we've come to expect it. We Americans actually blame ourselves for not sterilizing our meat thermometers every time we check to see if our fecal contaminants are done, every time we don't cook the shit out of it, literally. There's no reason that anyone should get E. coli poisoning. It is strictly a byproduct of our intensive factory farming methods now. You know, ask yourself, is it reasonable that if a consumer undercooks a hamburger, their 3-year-old dies? Is that reasonable? The meat industry evidently seems to think so, right? You know, undercook this, and, you know, maybe it won't be hot all the way through, right? Undercook regular ground beef, and your kid could die. And it is as simple and horrible as that, right? And, you know, even if you do cook it all the way through, I mean, you're still feeding your family feces, all right? I mean, now it's cooked feces, you know, like the cooked pus, you know, but still, right? Yet another reason why I decided to only eat things that didn't have bowel movements. Okay, where were we? Sorry about that. Tacos, right? So we got our veggie ground beef. Well, certainly we have the you know, sour cream as well. You know, there's a number of non-dairy cheeses on the market as well that you can grate onto your tacos. Pepperoni pizza? Well, I usually just order kind of a cheeseless pizza with lots of vegetables on top and then put this on top, the veggie pizza pepperoni, right? It tastes amazing. You eat them right out of the package, right? You know, every single itty slice of regular pepperoni has a gram of lard in it, right? This is fat-free. Steak fajitas, well, you know, there's a new product out now. These steak-style strips, these seasoned veggie strips, actually have this really kind of sirloin-y taste. I think it'd be great for fajitas, or you can just have veggie fajitas. Right? Cheese ravioli, well, there are indeed non-dairy tofu-based ravioli, as well as veggie sloppy Joe mix, but come on, there's no way that you're going to make vegetarian ribs, right? Well, you just have to kind of give that up. Actually, and again, they were sold out. You can actually go to the frozen, food department of, big natural food stores, and you can actually find these veggie ribs that actually are quite ribby tasting. And then in terms of desserts, there's a number of non-dairy ice creams on the market. I think my favorite is the Soy Delicious, most flavors of which have 0 saturated fat. You know, you sit down to a cup of regular ice cream, and it's like sitting down to a half stick of butter. Right? Imagine chewing a half stick of butter, right? This, 0 saturated fat. And there's non-dairy ice cream sandwiches and non-dairy fudge bars, And my Hawaiian vegetarian audiences were very happy to find out that there is indeed vegetarian Spam called Wham, if you can believe it. The bottom line, the reason I went through all that is because it's now easier than ever before to start eating healthy, to go vegetarian, especially now with these big natural food stores now. But even normal grocery stores now have a range of ready-to-eat vegetarian foods. In terms of eating out, there's more and more vegetarian restaurants these days, but even non-vegetarian restaurants tend to have veggie options these days, particularly cuisines from other countries like Chinese, Mexican, Middle Eastern, Ethiopian, Indian, Thai. Restaurants all offer usually a good variety of vegetarian options. There's even healthier fast food now. Burger King now has a veggie burger made out of brown rice and oats, right? McDonald's now is even test marketing a veggie burger, I think in California, right? And, Subway, you can get a vegetarian sub. Taco Bell, you can get bean burritos now. I mean, these are pretty slimy corporations in terms of how they treat their workers, etc. But, it's nice to know that wherever you go, you can get healthier food. Now, if you notice, I never even got to my favorite step, step number 3, right? I mean, new unexplored veggie dishes. Now, true, kind of from an animal suffering point of view, everything I showed you is perfectly fine. And from a health standpoint, I mean, you know, little or no saturated fat, it's healthier, you know, no cholesterol on this entire table, you know, but, I mean, cholesterol is made by the liver, right? Plants don't have little livers, right? So there's 0 cholesterol in any plant foods. Right? But there are cheaper, healthier ways to eat without so much kind of wasteful packaging. I mean, look at this, the French fries, right? Yeah, vegetarian, but not healthy, right? Even this, of all things, right? Even says, all vegetable, right? But not healthy. In fact, I was just reading, actually says on it, not intended for use as spread on foods like toast and crackers. Ugh, right? You know, just because you're eating vegetarian doesn't necessarily mean you're eating healthy, right? You know, if you think about it, your body's only made out of 4 things, basically. Water, you know, sunlight, air, and food, right? You are physically what you eat, right? And so if you want a healthy body, you need to eat healthy food. And so in this next segment, I'll talk about healthy eating. Number one reason people go vegetarian is for their health. In fact, in the United States, people go vegetarian for health more than all other reasons combined. You know, so by eating these, you know, substitution foods, right, you can eat healthier, but if you want to eat healthiest, you actually have to eat your vegetables, right? And so particularly dark green leafy vegetables. So collard greens, kale, right? Spinach. You know, I tell all my patients to eat dark green leafies every single day of their lives. Why do vegetarians have lower blood pressure, better blood sugar, weight control, lower cholesterol? It's not only because of avoiding all the bad stuff in meat, the saturated fat and cholesterol, antibiotics, hormones, mad cow, you know, but also because of all the wonderful things in plant foods. It's been estimated that if everyone just ate 5 darn servings of fruits and vegetables a day, there would be 30% fewer strokes in this country. Excuse me, 20% less cancer, 15% less heart disease. Right? And that's not cutting out meat. That's not going vegetarian. That's just eating 5 servings of fruits and vegetables every day. Right? And a serving isn't big. It's like a serving of fruit is like a fruit the size of a tennis ball or something. So, you know, a grapefruit or a big banana is actually 2 servings of fruit, and a serving of, you know, cooked vegetables is about a half a cup, about the same size. Right? And if you think about heart disease, cancer, stroke, I mean, those are the top 3 killers in the United States. Right? Imagine if there were a pill that could cut your stroke risk in half, your breast cancer risk in half, right? And only had good side effects. Everyone would be taking, right? Some drug company would be making billions of dollars off it, right? But when that pill is eat 5 to 9 servings of fruits and vegetables a day, everyone's like, yeah. Which would cut your stroke risk in half, cut your breast cancer risk in half, right? Plants are storehouses of thousands of these so-called phytonutrients. Phyto means plants, right? These are special plant nutrients, right? What is in fruits and vegetables that's so good? I mean, is it the vitamin C, the vitamin E, the fiber, the folate, the flavonoids, the phytoestrogens, the beta-carotene, the antioxidants, lycopene, lutein, potassium? And who knows? Who cares? Well, the drug companies care, right? I mean, they can't patent a carrot, make $1 million off it, although they're trying, right? So they tried all these studies where they said, well, we know fruits and vegetables prevent cancer, right? So I bet it's that beta-carotene stuff. So they gave thousands of people pills out of beta-carotene, right? It didn't help, right? It didn't work. You know, there are over 500 carotenoids, 500 carotenes. They gave people beta and figured that would work, right? I mean, they just can't find the right combination. So they tried vitamin C supplements, didn't work. Find vitamin E supplements, didn't work, right? They just can't piece it all together. You know, there's the multivitamin spectrum just now says, now with lutein, which is this wonderful phytonutrient found in dark green leafy vegetables that helps your eyes, according to Centrum, has 250 micrograms of lutein in every pill, right? 1 leaf of collard greens has 10,000, right? It's a marketing gimmick, right? So, meanwhile, you know, all along, while the drug companies are trying to cram this all in a pill, we've known all along that fruits and veggies work. I mean, they are absolutely magic, right? That doctors should be prescribing them, right? They're cheap, right? Doctors should be whipping out their prescription pads, right? And writing broccoli, 1 cup a day, unlimited refill, right? This should be everyone's multivitamin, right? Now, if doctors actually did this, though, they would have to describe all the side effects of such a regimen. Right? Side effects of doing this would include less mouth cancer, less throat cancer, less esophageal cancer, less stomach cancer, less colon cancer, less lung cancer, less breast cancer, less kidney cancer, less bladder cancer, less prostate cancer, less ovarian cancer, less endometrial cancer, and yes, less cervical cancer. That's what you'd have to deal with if you actually did something like that. The same diet that prevents stroke and cancer also prevents heart disease and diverticulosis and helps, protect against dementia, macular degeneration, and emphysema. Just 1.5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day, and you cut your risk of developing cataracts 5-fold. 5-fold. 1.5 servings. Absolutely amazing. One of these days, the kale lobby will have a $2 billion advertising budget like McDonald's, and then you'll see some action. What I'm trying to say is that you should pile veggies on, dump veggies on everything. No longer should anyone eat spaghetti with marinara sauce, right? They should eat spaghetti with marinara sauce with lots of vegetables dumped on top, right? Never again just a bean burrito with lots of vegetables stuffed inside. Baked potato, fine. Lots of veggies on top, right? Instead of thinking pasta with some vegetables on top, you should be thinking vegetables. And oh, look, there's some pasta in there, right? Or, stir-fried veggies on brown rice. No, stir-fried veggies. And oh, there's some brown rice in there. The World Health Organization blames low fruit and vegetable consumption on literally millions of deaths every year. You should eat fruits and vegetables as if your life depends on it, because guess what? It does. And it takes more than 1 apple a day to keep the doctor away. The National Cancer Institute just bumped up the recommended minimum number of fruits and vegetables from 5 to 9 a day, right? Thought you weren't doing so good before, now you're really behind, right? And why haven't you heard this? That is 9 a day now? Well, the federal government spends about $10 million every year to teach Americans about healthy eating, right? That's how, a candy corporation spends twice that just releasing a new candy bar. Right? That's what McDonald's spends every 2 days on advertising. Right? So don't expect to hear about it anytime soon. Right? But why hasn't your doctor told you about it, though? Well, odds are your doctor was never taught any of this right, in medical school. Right? Less than a quarter of medical schools have a single course in nutrition. Right? Out of the thousands of hours of clinical instruction your doctor got, maybe 3 hours were nutrition. There's actually a study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, which was this pitted doctors against patients head-to-head in a test of nutrition knowledge, and guess who won? The patients, right? A person off the street knows more about nutrition, basic nutrition, than doctors, right? Yet people still want healthy eating advice from their doctors, and what their doctor is telling them is killing them, right? It wasn't too long ago that doctors were, telling pregnant women to smoke cigarettes, right? Until your doctor learns more about nutrition, they're advising you about your diet is like physician-assisted suicide. Now, are there some fruits and vegetables that are better than others? Yes. Tufts University did a study of 40 common fruits and vegetables and measured their total antioxidant potential. Antioxidants are what protects us against aging and cancer and heart disease and Alzheimer's and all that bad stuff. So the #1 most powerful antioxidant fruit? Blueberries. Right? Let's go through the top 5. Blueberries, right? Blackberries, strawberries, raspberries, and plums. Right? The vegetable that won the heavyweight title for champion antioxidant of the world was kale. Let's go through the top 5. Kale and spinach were first 1 and 2. Again, gotta love those dark green leafies, right? And then Brussels sprouts, alfalfa sprouts, and broccoli. Right? So the best vegetables are the dark green leafy ones like collard greens and kale and spinach. The cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, bok choy, and the deep yellow or orange vegetables like pumpkins, carrots, sweet potatoes. In the fruit department, other than those wonderful berries, citrus has these wonderful anti-tumor, anti-inflammatory flavonoids with original names like tangerine, or lemonoids like limonene. Right? These antioxidant scientists don't strike me as a real creative bunch. Right? And many of these citrus flavonoids, these wonderful flavonoids, are found in the white or pulp of the fruit, so it's much better to eat a whole orange than it is to just drink orange juice. And deep yellow or orange fruits like cantaloupes, apricots, mangoes also are particularly healthy. The key, though, is variety. Japanese dietary guidelines actually quantify variety. They recommend eating at least 30 different foods every day. It's kind of neat. Or you can try to eat the rainbow every day, right? Roy G. Biv, right? Eating red foods, orange foods, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. I don't know how many violet foods there are out there, but you know, we Americans eat a lot of beige foods, you know, white rice, white bread, white pasta, white potatoes, you know, and scientists are discovering more and more these wonderful benefits of these plant pigments that make fruits and vegetables all those vibrant colors. We've known about beta-carotene, that which makes fruits and vegetables yellow and orange. Now we're finding about lycopene. 2002, the Harvard study of 47,000 men found that those who ate lots of red fruits and vegetables, like tomato sauce or watermelon, pink grapefruit, had a third less chance of developing prostate cancer. No drug in the world can do what tomato sauce does. And now we're finding anthocyanin, the stuff that makes blueberries blue, is again one of the most powerful antioxidants we know. So why do I highlight dark green leafy vegetables, right? If all the colors are good, well, I'm blessed to live in New England where we have the fall, the autumn, and where all the leaves turn those beautiful, vibrant colors. Well, where were those colors in the summer? They're actually all there, but they were just covered up by the green pigment chlorophyll. And all that happens in the fall is the green pigment starts dying away, and all those other wonderful colors comes out. Right? And so, by eating dark green leafies, dark green leaves, right, you're getting all the colors wrapped up into one, right? You're getting your lycopene, you're getting the beta-carotene, right? So you're eating the rainbow all tied in one when you eat your kale or any of the other dark green leafies. We're also finding that a number of the flavor compounds in food are also powerful antioxidants as well. So there's these compounds called gingerols. Guess where they're found? Right? And then there are these so-called terpenoids in fresh herbs. The top antioxidant fresh herbs are oregano. Actually, fresh oregano beats everyone else out. And then fresh sage, peppermint, and thyme. Right? And then there's the allium compounds in garlic and onions. So for maximum nutrition, you should eat colorful and flavorful foods. And wholesome foods, whole foods. Right? So for example, there are bad carbs and good carbs. Right? The bad carbohydrate foods are the ones that are made out of refined flour. Right? I mean, at least 25 vitamins and minerals are extracted when you mill, whole wheat into white flour, and then 5 are chemically replaced to enrich it. Right? The good carbohydrate foods, not the white bread, white bagels, but are the breads and grain products that are made out of whole grains like whole wheat and oats. There are the good fats and the bad fats too. The bad fats are the ones that are solid at room temperature, the saturated fats, right, which are found almost exclusively in flesh foods and dairy. Right? So, when you eat an animal, they leave a little bit of themselves behind, coating the lining of your arteries. Right? And that's why Johns Hopkins School of Public Health and 28 other public health schools launched this Meatless Mondays campaign, again trying to get Americans to decrease their saturated fat intake, which, as they correctly note, is contributing to the top killers here in the United States. The good fats, on the other hand, are the monounsaturated fats best found in whole foods like nuts and avocados. Everyone who's not allergic should eat nuts or nut butters every single day of their lives. This new study came out of California, found that those that ate nuts 5 times a week, serving of nuts 5 times a week or more, right, had half the cardiac mortality, half the fatal stroke risk. You want to cut your risk of dying from the #1 killer in the U.S., all you have to do is eat nuts every day. And for those of you worried that nuts will make you fat, actually there's an impressive body of research that suggests that those who add nuts to their diet actually don't gain weight. And some studies actually show that people who add nuts to their diet actually lose weight. We're not sure why, whether it satiates the appetite or they just lose more fat in their feces. We're not sure why. But bottom line, nuts won't make you fat. You should eat them every day. Everyone should also strive to eat beans every day. What's so good about beans? Well, new studies just came out. Those that ate legumes, beans, peas, or lentils, at least 4 times a week, had 20% less heart disease. Not bad, right? Beans are good for your heart. The more you eat, the more... All right. So, vegetables, fruits, whole grains, nuts, and beans. Right? So if you center your diet around these colorful, flavorful, wholesome foods, you are just going to be getting mountains of nutrition, right? Maximum nutrition. Right? And in a bit we'll do the cooking part and actually show you how to actually make it taste good. But, you know, are there any nutrients that one has to worry about not getting enough of on a plant-based diet? Like, what about protein? Right? Well, you know, vegetarians get their protein from, you know, where big, strong animals like elephants and horses get their protein from plants. Right? Actually, American vegetarians, just like American meat eaters, get more than enough protein they need every day. Well, yeah, but is it quality protein? Right? Don't vegetarians have to, like, combine, you know, rice and beans or something at every meal? Actually, that's a myth. The whole combining proteins thing. In fact, the American Dietetics Association agrees that that's a myth, that this protein combining meals is not necessary at all. It's actually based in the 1920s on experiments on infant rats that found that rats didn't grow so well because they need a specific amino acid to grow their fur coat. But we're not rats. We don't need to grow a fur coat. Beans are just fine. In fact, you know, plant protein is not only fine, it's better. Right? Why? Because of all the baggage that comes with the animal protein, right? Consider a serving of soy versus a serving of steak, right? Same amount of protein, same quality protein, right? But the steak has 5 times more calories and 16 grams of that artery-clogging saturated fat, right? Meanwhile, the soy is chock full of those wonderful phytonutrients like the isoflavones, these phytoestrogens, that protect your heart against heart disease, protect your bones against osteoporosis, and protect you against certain cancers, right? Whereas the meat may harm your heart, harm your bones, and contribute to cancer. Right? There's absolutely no nutrient, no mineral, vitamin, protein, amino acid that's exclusively found in meat. Having said that, because of the way most of us live in this modern world, there are 2 vitamins that those who eat plant-based diets need to pay particular attention to: vitamin D and vitamin B12. Vitamin D really isn't a vitamin. It's a hormone that our skin makes when it's exposed to sun. Well, if it's the sunshine vitamin, can't we just get all we need by walking out in the sun for a few minutes every day? Well, not in most areas of the country, not during the winter. Unfortunately, most of the country during the winter, the sun's rays are at such an angle that no matter how long you sunbathe naked in January, February, you are just not going to make enough vitamin D. You know, even if you do live in a place where that gets a lot of sun, you know, it's not so safe anymore to walk out and get a lot of sun because of the depleted ozone layer, right? So we need to get vitamin D in our diet. How do we do that? Well, there are, you know, cow's milk has vitamin D fortified to it, but a lot of other foods too, like the soy milks and a number of the other plant milks out there. The breakfast cereals, you know, Cheerios, Raisin Bran, Corn Flakes, all have vitamin D added to it. Or, you know, you can certainly take a supplement or a multivitamin to get your vitamin D as well. Vitamin B12 isn't made by plants, isn't made by animals either. It's made by microbes, these little bacteria that blanket the earth. And these bacteria grow in the guts of some of the animals whose muscles we eat, or milk, or eggs they produce. It can be sources of B12 for non-vegans. It used to be in water, in the soil, right? Vegans probably used to get all the B12 they needed from, you know, drinking out of a mountain stream or drinking well water. But, you know, now we chlorinate our water supply to kill off any of the bacteria, so we don't get a lot of vitamin B12 in our water anymore. We don't get a lot of cholera either, right? So that's a good thing, right? But kind of bottom line, because of the way we're living in our modern world, you know, vegans have a tougher time getting 2 of the vitamins, the vitamin D and the vitamin B12, but, you know, nothing that can't be solved with a bowl of cereal. Right? And then everyone, meat eaters and vegetarians alike, need to get enough of the minerals, zinc, iron, and calcium. Now, vegetarians and vegans don't have higher rates or worse rates of mineral deficiencies than meat eaters, but just because we don't have worse rates doesn't mean a lot because they have such crappy rates in the first place. Right? And so, the healthy solution is beans, greens, nuts, and seeds. But if you're not getting a lot of color and variety in your diet, again, one can go to the fortified foods like the breakfast cereals or calcium-fortified orange juice or soy milk. Right? And that used to be basically the whole story, right? Vitamin D, vitamin B12, think about your minerals until these pesky omega-3s came along. There's a growing evidence about the importance of these omega-3 fatty acids in your diet. Right? Well, basically, there are good fats, there are bad fats, and then there are great fats, these omega-3 fats. In a nutshell, walnuts are a good source, but certainly dark green leafies have some as well. Non-vegetarians can get it from certain types of fish, but the most concentrated source of omega-3s on the planet isn't fish, it's flax seeds. I'll talk about how to use flax seeds in the cooking section. All right, so we've talked about some of the healthiest vegetarian choices. What about the unhealthiest? Like, what is the single most dangerous or toxic food or food ingredient in the American food supply? Trans fats. Right? There are good fats, there are great fats, then there are bad fats, then there are killer fats, these so-called trans fats. Trans fats are basically found only one place in nature, animal fats. Animal fats, which are already loaded with artery-clogging saturated fat, often also have these toxic trans fats as well. But now, thanks to better living through chemistry, the food industry found a way to create these toxic fats synthetically by hardening vegetable oils in a process called hydrogenation, which kind of rearranges their atoms and makes them act more like animal fats. Right? Summer 2002, the National Academy of Science released a damning report on trans fats, and they concluded that the only safe intake of trans fats is 0. Right? The maximum tolerable upper limit of intake is 0. All right, so we need to stay away from meat and dairy, right? Deep-fried foods in restaurants, and anything that says hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated on the label. Wait a second. If the National Academy of Sciences says that the only safe intake is 0, and it's only found in animal foods and processed foods, are they telling everyone to go vegetarian? Right? Makes sense, right? Well, actually, they didn't. So they were challenged on it, and one of the authors of the report, a nutritional epidemiologist at the Harvard School of Public Health, responded to the challenge, and he said, quote, "We can't tell people to stop eating all meat and all dairy products," he said. "Well, we could tell people to become vegetarians," he added. "If we were truly basing this only on science, we would, but it is a bit extreme," unquote. I love that, right? Wouldn't want scientists to base anything on science, would we? No. Right? All right, just had to get that out. Diet, of course, is not the only component of good health. You need lots of fresh air, exercise, and laughter. You need to love yourself and others and what you do for a living. Wear your seatbelts, bike helmets, limit alcohol, quit smoking, and practice safer sex. All right, it's time to start making some of these colorful, flavorful, wholesome foods. Shall we? I mean, it's one thing to tell everyone to eat their dark green leafies. But, what are you supposed to do? Oh, it tastes like grass. I'm going to show you how to do greens right. I think people have these traumatic, memories from childhood of some cafeteria scooping out some overcooked gray lumps of stuff, right? And if you're thinking, oh, I hate cooking, or I love cooking, but who has the time? Everything we're going to make is easy, simple, yummy. All right, let's start with breakfast. Less than half of America eats what truly is the most important meal of the day. Kids who eat breakfast have better test scores, better verbal fluency, better eye-hand coordination. And breakfast ain't just for kids anymore. Eating a healthy breakfast has been shown to improve mental performance, physical performance, memory, concentration, learning, right? And your cholesterol and maybe even your waistline. If you don't eat anything in the morning, your body's like, oh, maybe there's no food or there's a famine or something, and slows down and stops and slows the burning of calories to conserve its energy, right? But by breaking that fast in the morning, break fast, You know, you tell your body, lots of food, nothing to see here, move along, you know, burn away, right? And you boost your metabolism and you boost your energy level. More and more evidence is coming out now to back this up. The 2003 American Heart Association conference, for example, showed that breakfast eaters were far less likely to be obese, right, or have diabetes or heart disease, particularly those that ate healthy breakfasts. And healthy, in other words, means eating whole grains. Right? Whole grains, what, like brown rice for breakfast? Well, there actually is puffed brown rice cereal, but not like whole grain toast or whole grain hot or cold cereal. You know, oatmeal is a particularly healthful way to squeeze whole grains into breakfast. Your grandparents were right. Oats have this special soluble fiber that actually lowers your cholesterol, lowers your blood sugar levels, lowers your triglyceride levels. Right? This soluble fiber actually removes cholesterol right out of your bloodstream, actually just sponges it right out of your bloodstream. A massive study of 22,000 people found that those who ate a bowl of cereal every morning reduced their risk of dying from a heart attack by 27%. Right? That's better than a lot of the cholesterol-lowering drugs, right? So, you know, do you want to take a drug every day for the rest of your life and risk liver damage, or do you want a bowl of oatmeal? Probably seen those ads on TV for like Honey Nut Cheerios, how it'll, you know, reduce your risk of heart disease. Well, it is made out of oats, but look at the small print at the bottom. It says you have to eat like 3 cups a day. That's like 8 spoonfuls of sugar, right? Cook up just a cup of oatmeal and you can get the same amount, the same benefit, the same amount of soluble fiber without all the refined sugar. You know, oatmeal is filling too. You know, there are studies on appetite and hunger, and research suggests that those who eat oatmeal for breakfast eat 30% less at lunch than those who had like the equal amount of cornflakes or whatever. So oatmeal is great for those who are trying to lose weight as well. In fact, the single most scientifically proven dietary change to lose weight is, repeat that, the single most scientifically proven dietary change that anyone can make to lose weight is to increase fiber intake. What kind of oatmeal should people get, though? I mean, there's rolled oats and regular oats and quick oats, instant oats. Well, regular or rolled oats take about 6 minutes to cook. Quick oats take 4 minutes. Instant oats are, well, instant, just add boiling water. Nutritionally, they're identical. Instant oats is just chopped up little flakes of regular oats, and so they just cook faster. It's like, you know, buying angel hair spaghetti instead of regular spaghetti just because it cooks quicker. I mean, it's still spaghetti, still the same stuff. Same thing with, you know, quick oats versus regular oats. Well, then why would anyone sit there and kind of stir oatmeal on the stove? I mean, what's the downside of the instant oats? Really, it's the texture. I mean, instant oatmeal can be a little mushy, and you lose out on that chewier texture of slower cooked oats. But hey, if you like the instant, then, you know, go for it. I mean, what could be more convenient? You take a mug of instant oats with you, and at work, you know, you can use the little red lever on the coffee machine, get instant boiling water, walk into any mini mart and any gas station, do the same thing, right? The only caveat is, you know, you don't want to use those pre-flavored, expensive packets of instant oatmeal that have all that refined sugar. Right? I mean, you should sweeten your oatmeal or your other cereal with fruit, you know, fiber-rich and phytonutrient-rich fruit. You know, raisins, berries, banana slices. You know, if you use berries, it may actually be doubly good because berries have that wonderful soluble fiber too. Where else can you find soluble fiber? Bean. You know, who eats beans for breakfast? Those Brits, those crazy Brits. Oh, hey, baked beans for breakfast, you know, good for them, right? Also nuts. Nuts have that wonderful soluble fiber too, and so, you know, throw a handful of nuts on your oatmeal, you know, with the fruit as well. Also, you know, ground flaxseed is a wonderful source of soluble fiber. Well, in fact, my favorite breakfast is, you know, a bowl of oatmeal and a flax smoothie. Oh, finally, I get to make something. All right. Take 2 tablespoons of flax seeds. You know, flax seeds, they're brown and golden flax seeds. Nutritionally, they're identical, so pick your favorite color. All right, into the blender. You know, flax seeds come in nature's finest packaging, this hard natural hull, which keeps them fresh, such that you can keep them in an airtight container on your kitchen counter for a year. They do just fine. Unfortunately, nature's finest packaging is a little too good, such that if you eat the whole seed, it just kind of comes out the other end, doesn't do you any good. So you need to grind them up. So spice grinder, coffee grinder, food processor, good blender will do it. So let us grind these up. Make sure to put the cover on, otherwise I've ended up with flax seeds all over the kitchen and your hair. That's why I wear the hat. All right, then add half a frozen banana, the riper the better. Half a cup of frozen blueberries. Unfortunately, I think these aren't so frozen anymore. A cup of wonderful organic soy milk. Of course, you can use frozen blueberries or strawberries or frozen cantaloupe, whatever. Put the top back on. Let's blend it up again. All right, look at that beautiful, gorgeous color. Oh, tastes gorgeous too. Flax seeds have this real binding quality, such that you can get these really thick, milkshaky smoothies. In fact, flax has such an incredible binding quality that you can actually use ground flax seeds to replace eggs in baking. You take 1 tablespoon of flax seeds, throw it in your blender, grind it up, then add 3 tablespoons of water, and then just blend that up for a few seconds till it gets all kind of gooey, and that replaces 1 egg in baking. So in your muffin mix or, pancake recipes, whatever, if it calls for an egg, you can use that instead. You can also just kind of whisk it up. You can take a tablespoon of ground flax seeds. You can actually buy pre-ground flax seeds. You get these bags of flax meal in the grocery store. And so a tablespoon of that, 3 tablespoons of water, and you can just whisk it up. Arm gets a little tired, but it's good exercise, till it's all kind of gooey and mucusy, and that replaces 1 egg in baking. So instead of adding saturated fat and cholesterol to your recipes, right, you're adding anti-cholesterol, right, that cholesterol-sponging soluble fiber, and you don't have to worry about, contaminating your workspace with salmonella either. In fact, that's actually the preferred egg replacer of my favorite vegan cookbook author, Joanne Stepanek, if I can give away her secrets here. Flax seeds are one of the world's original health foods, widely prized for its healing properties throughout history. Hippocrates used flax seeds as one of his original medicines. Mahatma Gandhi was right, and when he said, wherever flax seeds become a regular food item among the people, there will be better health. He actually did say that. In fact, Dr. Andrew Weil, the big alternative medicine guru, has stated that if you can only make 1 change to your diet, if you can just do 1 thing to your diet, it should be to add flax seeds to your diet. You can find them in the bulk section of your natural food store for about 99 cents a pound, and a pound will last you for months. For convenience, again, there's the flax meal that you can buy pre-ground. How much of this stuff do you actually have to eat? Well, I recommend that everyone eat 2 tablespoons of ground flax seeds every day of their lives until they die. Right? It's this light, nutty powder. You can just sprinkle it on anything. These seeds are little nutrition powerhouses, right? Not only are they the world's richest source of omega-3s, right? They're also the world's richest source of boron. What do you need boron for? Well, boron is actually important for optimum bone health. They're also the single world's richest source of lignans. Okay, I give up. What are lignans? There are 2 types of phytoestrogens. There are the isoflavones in soy, and then there are the lignans. People have heard about the isoflavones in soy, but these lignans, the good bacteria in our colon convert the lignans we eat into these powerful antioxidant phytoestrogens that protect us from cancer. In fact, there's a kind of an interesting story behind this. We've known for many years that women who had frequent bladder infections had higher risks of breast cancer later on in life, and it was a big mystery. I mean, what's the connection? Till they figured out it was that frequent antibiotic use, wiping out the good bacteria in the gut that was converting the lignans they ate to these powerful anti-cancer agents, right? So by eating flax seeds, ground flax seeds, the world's best source of lignans, you can decrease your risk of getting breast cancer and prostate cancer as well. But remember, the #1 killer in the U.S. is still heart disease, and that's where these omega-3 fatty acids come in. In many ways, flax is a better source of omega-3s than fish. To spite you for murdering them, fishies load up your body with toxic heavy metals like lead and mercury, PCBs, DDT. In fact, concerns over mental retardation and birth defects has led the EPA and the FDA to recommend that pregnant women and small children limit their intake of fish. Fish are a real disaster from a food safety point of view, can spread everything from hepatitis to cholera. Overfishing is a global environmental disaster, not to mention the poor fishies. So, when a fish-eating woman comes into my office, I've just got to hold up my hand and say, "Just a flax, ma'am." Sorry. But seriously, the holy grail of mercury contaminations was actually recently published. The FDA recommends that pregnant women and small children limit their intake of fish to 2 cans of tuna a week or something. And there's a whole list of fish that they shouldn't be eating at all. And so what these California researchers did was just look at people who ate more than that, more than 2 servings of fish a week, and found that in the blood of 90% of them exceeded the mercury tolerance safety levels, right? Over 90% of them. Yikes. And mercury is toxic stuff. It can cause fatigue, and memory loss. It poisons your heart and increases your risk of a heart attack. In fact, mercury contamination in fish and fish oil may be so extensive it actually cancels out the benefits of the omega-3s. Some studies, for example, recently have shown an increased mortality among fish eaters. So, flax it up. Let's run through a checklist again of what everyone should be getting in their diet every day for maximum nutrition. So, for example, a minimum of 9 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. Let's split that up into 4 servings of fruits, 5 of vegetables. One of those should be dark leafy greens, one of those servings of vegetables. Then, of course, your whole grains, nuts, and beans. There's those 2 vitamins, B12, vitamin D. We need to get our omega-3s every day and keep an eye on the minerals, calcium, iron, and zinc. Meat eater or vegan, these are the things that everyone has to make sure they get enough of every day. So, for example, there are studies that show that even meat eaters aren't getting enough vitamin B12 from meat. So, meat eaters in their 20s, 30s, and 50s, or just a third of them have suboptimal B12 levels. And vitamin D deficiency is rampant. There's an epidemic of vitamin D deficiency in North America. And so, everyone should have this up on their fridge, and check through it every day to make sure they're getting everything they need. Wow, if we're going to fit all this into our day, we better have a good breakfast, right? The more we get in early on, the better chances we have of kind of finishing off these recommendations. Then if you get stuck somewhere, or you're stuck out, then at least you can get some of these out of the way. So, let's look at my kind of oatmeal flax smoothie thing to see how that measures up, all right? Well, so let's say a bowl of oatmeal with a handful of nuts and a handful of raisins and our flax smoothie. So, the oatmeal not only gets us our whole grains, gets us 3 servings of whole grains, just 1 cup of oatmeal cooked up. And then, of course, we got with a handful of nuts and maybe a handful of raisins, because dried fruits are just so concentrated in nutrients. Just a few tablespoons of dried fruit is considered 1 serving of fruit. Then our flax smoothie, well, we got our beans, right, in our soy bean milk, right? We got the half a cup of blueberries is 1 serving of fruit, and a half a banana is another serving of fruit, right? And then, because the soy milk was fortified, I used that silk soy milk, I got half my vitamin B12 for the day, right? I got about a third of my vitamin D requirement for the day. Got our omega-3s, right, in the flax. About a third of the calcium from the soy milk, right? And actually, because the instant oatmeal I was using was fortified as well, I got all my iron for the day and a third of my zinc, as well as about another third of my calcium, too, all right? And not that we have to worry about protein, but just this meal is over half my protein needs for the entire day, right? Look how we're doing. I haven't even hardly woken up yet, right? Now, instead, so it's worth waking up 15 minutes early to start your day right. Now, you could instead eat your, veggie bacon or veggie sausage, and, hey, that would, I don't know, usually they're soybean products, so we check off our beans and maybe they have some B12 in them as well. But, what else are we going to get us? A bagel gets us nowhere, right? And, that cream cheese, that non-dairy cream cheese, let's read those ingredients, right? Water, partially hydrogenated oils, killer fats, right? Straight in the garbage. Right? Now, Tofutti is reformulating their products and getting rid of the trans fats, but you got to be careful. You know, oatmeal and smoothies, just one idea. There's lots of other quick, healthy breakfast options, right? So, you know, whole grain toast with some peanut butter, right? Or other nut butters. There's cashew butter and almond butter. You know, we got to get our nuts in somehow for the day. Or maybe some whole grain cereal with some soy milk and some fruit on top, right? Certainly, that's another one. And there are other plant-based or motherless milks out there. There's the rice milk, for example. There's also a number of nut milks out there, like almond milk. You know, they even, like the soy milk, even comes in these little, like, juice box containers, right, that you can just keep, you know, unopened, you know, unrefrigerated for like a year. And so, you know, there's no excuse not to eat a healthy breakfast. You could throw one of these, you know, Tupperware with some whole grain cereal with you and, you know, have it at work or on the way to work. There's no excuse for not eating healthy. You know, what else is quick and easy? Well, fresh fruit. You can't beat, you know, fresh fruit. You know, and the yogurt's pretty healthy. The soy yogurt I showed you, you get your beans, some of your calcium. You know, but again, throw fruit in it, right? I mean, again, we've got to get a minimum of 4 servings of fruit every day. So, you know, if we don't start in breakfast, you know, it might be hard to kind of catch up later on. And, you know, those toaster waffles, pretty healthy as well. But again, you know, put on the fruit, you know, either fresh fruit or hot cooked fruit. And then maybe for weekends or when you're really not racing the clock, you know, then you can make your own waffles or pancakes from scratch. You know, you can use your own recipe. That Compassionate Cook cookbook has some wonderful pancake recipes. Or, you know, you can use a mix. You know, and just when it says call for an egg, you use like the whipped up flax, or if it calls for milk, you can use one of the plant milks out there, right? Or you can make, you know, biscuits and gravy with that wonderful, you know, chicken flavored gravy I love so much. Or, you know, Mexi breakfast burritos, you know, whatever. And for egg lovers, you know, try the tofu scramble. It's a great way you can actually get some veggies in for breakfast as well with some, you know, onion or green pepper or spinach or something. All right, lunchtime. Lunchtime. What should we eat for lunch? Well, if you look over at our checklist, we better start getting some veggies in or our supper is going to be quite a challenge. For lunch, I'm usually thinking soup, salad, or sandwich, something like that. So, you know, there's lots of healthy canned soups these days, and there's lots of instant healthy soup mixes. You can go to your natural food store, and usually in the bulk section, get like an instant split pea soup, or instant curry lentil, or instant black bean, instant veggie chili, something like that. But, you know, in the time it takes to boil the water or to heat up your soup, you can make your own miso soup from scratch. You take 2 cups of water. Turn on the heat here. A handful of shiitake mushrooms. These are actually kind of expensive if you buy them in a conventional store, but you can get them in Asian markets, get big bags. They're usually pretty cheap. A cup of chopped spinach. Just pack it in. And hey, we got in there. So here's a veggie for the day, and we got our greens. All right. Sometimes I put just a drop of toasted sesame oil in for flavor, but it's kind of optional. Now, while this is heating up, let me tell you about shiitakes. Shiitakes are a good source of B vitamins, trace minerals, and zinc. So between this and the miso and the breakfast, we got another third of our zinc. And, you know, dried shiitake mushrooms are one of the most concentrated sources of vitamin D, the sunshine vitamin on the planet. So just one handful has all the vitamin D we need for the day. But, you know, the magic in the mushrooms are these special phytonutrient polysaccharides, which have been shown not only to decrease your cholesterol, but boost your immune system. Right? So, you know, chicken soup may be good for your cold but just because it's a hot liquid, right? This soup, you know, may actually help your body fight off the infection or prevent it in the first place. Now, you don't add the miso until the end. Miso is a soft, savory paste made from fermented soybeans. It comes in a variety of colors and flavors. The lighter the color, the mellower the flavor. So like a white or yellow miso like this is probably just aged for a few weeks and has a sweeter, less salty flavor, whereas the red misos can be aged for years and have quite the robust flavor. I recommend the lighter shades for miso novices. You know, miso's been around for about 1,300 years now. Only recently, though, has it finally caught the attention of modern medicine. Dr. Akazuki was the director of St. Francis Hospital in Nagasaki during World War II. And although he and his staff treated atomic bomb victims for years just a few miles away from Ground Zero, neither him nor any of his staff ever seemed to suffer from the deadly effects of the radiation. He thought it was because of all the miso soup that they drank. Since then, studies have backed it up, and you know, after Chernobyl, for example, truckloads of miso were sent over to deal with the crisis there. And finally, we now have big studies to prove the benefits of miso. One study of 250,000 people found that those who frequently consume miso had 40% less heart disease, 30% less stroke, 20% less cancer. In fact, one recent survey, June 2003, found that in Japan, women who frequently consume miso had 40% less breast cancer, but 20% less cancer overall, right? No drug or surgery comes close to, I mean, you know, this miso costs a couple bucks and will probably last me for a few months, right? Imagine if there was a pill that could do all that. Imagine how much they charge for that, right? This stuff's amazing, you know, but to look at the nutritional info, you know, you wouldn't know that. I mean, you know, it says, yeah, it's got a little zinc, it's got a little iron, but, you know, what else, right? Well, actually, what they're not listing, right, is they're not listing any of the phytonutrients on there, right? So if you look at nutrition info on the bag of blueberries, right, it's got a few percent of your vitamin A, just a few percent of your vitamin C, iron, right? Is that it? No, right? I mean, compare this to this, for example, right? This has got more vitamin A, more vitamin B, more vitamin D than your blueberries, but what's a healthier food, right? And hey, we wanted vibrant colors, right? Well, hey. But what's a healthier food? Nothing in here, right? Medical science has discovered 1,800 phytonutrients, these special plant nutrients, right? But the 1,800 won't fit on the package, right? I mean, if you actually listed all the wonderful things in plant foods, right, it'd be like Santa's list of nutrients, like flowing out onto the floor. You'd actually, you know, attach a book, you know, to go through all the wonderful things found in plant foods like this. You know, the ground beef would still say, yeah, it's got some zinc, it's got some iron, right? But, I mean, that's the difference between plant foods and animal foods. And miso is a probiotic, meaning it contains good bacteria, right? So it's better to buy the unpasteurized miso found in the refrigerated section of your natural food store or your Asian market instead of like the bags of miso that are just on the shelf, which are pasteurized and kills all the little good critters. And that's why you never want to boil your miso either, right? And so once the water boils, take the pot off the heat, right? And then mix the miso in a separate bowl. So I just skim off some of the hot water. This is so you don't get any lumps in there. Off to the side. You know, I recommend about 2 teaspoons of miso for every cup of water. So we use 2 cups of water. So I have 4 teaspoons of miso in that with the hot water. And then just to get rid of the lumps, whisk that up a bit to a nice paste. And then we're just going to put that paste right back in the soup. And then you're done. And that's it. That's how you make miso soup. It's basically water plus miso with some greens added for flavor and nutrition, and the shiitakes added for flavor and the immune boost. Now what I do is I often add hot sauce in the end. I add hot sauce to everything. I love this Asian chili sauce where you can get it basically any Asian market. You know, sometimes I cube up some tofu to put in at the beginning, or you know, you can put in some, fresh cilantro or dried seaweed, kind of whatever you'd like. Actually, my secret ingredient, though, just to really, for some reason, really makes the dish, is this non-dairy Parmesan cheese. Just a dash of this just really makes the dish. Right? You can also you can actually make a barley miso soup, too. You just got to, barley's got to boil for like a half an hour before it gets soft enough to eat. So you boil it for half an hour, then add the miso in at the end. Right? In terms of veggies, you can also, of course, use other veggies. Spinach just cooks really quick, basically kind of instantly. I always have a big bag of frozen veggies with me. Always some chopped up mustard greens or collard greens in the freezer with me. So then I don't have to go shopping, right? I mean, the miso lasts in the fridge forever. Dried shiitake mushrooms, water. I mean, so by using frozen greens, then even if I don't have anything fresh in the house, I can make this wonderful, healthful soup. Right? Is frozen produce as healthy as fresh, though? Well, particularly during the off-season, sometimes frozen is healthier than fresh. In the off-season when, produce is shipped in from around the world, it's no longer really fresh, whereas frozen produce may be frozen at the spot and retain more nutrients. Right? Now, of course, the best is locally grown if you can find it. Or how about a nice salad for lunch? You could sit down to a nice spinach salad, polish off like 5 cups of spinach right there, like what's in this bag, right? You can finish off your entire minimum vegetable requirement for the entire day in one fell swoop and get your greens, right? So, we got to stop thinking about beans as some like piddly little side serving, but like greens, right? Now, why spinach salad instead of lettuce? Well, spinach has 30 times more beta-carotene than lettuce, right? 5 times more of the trace minerals like selenium, copper, manganese, 4 times more folate, 6 times more vitamin C, and more lutein, that phytonutrients that protects your eyes, right? And more of the bone-healthy vitamin K, right? Lettuce has 0, right? And, so give spinach a chance. I bet you won't even be able to tell the difference. In fact, University of Arkansas researchers actually attempted to trick students into eating healthier by replacing their iceberg lettuce with spinach. And while student taste testers found the raw spinach perfectly appetizing, a few of them did say that the lettuce looked very green. Right? In fact, one student actually declared that he never, once he found out about the spinach substitution, said he never would have participated in this study if he found out they were going to be feeding him spinach, even though he couldn't tell the difference. Right? So, now if you share his spinach prejudice, then, you can try romaine lettuce or something, but just anything but iceberg. What about organic? Should you buy organic? Yes. Recent review of over 40 studies comparing the nutritional value of organic crops versus conventional crops found that organic foods had significantly higher nutrients, more vitamins, more minerals, more antioxidants, more phytonutrients. Right? So yeah, organic is more expensive, but it's also more nutritious. Right? And of course, there's the pesticide issue. November 2002, an important study was published. Researchers at the University of Washington were measuring the levels of organophosphate pesticides in the bodies of children. The reason this class of pesticides is so concerning is that they're considered to be neurological toxins, these developmental neurotoxins. And of course, the kids were just swimming with the stuff. But to their amazement, they found this one kid whose levels were 0. And so they did a little digging and found out that kid was being raised on an organic diet. So they took kids that were raised primarily organic compared to those raised on primarily conventional foods, and of course found that the organic kids had much lower levels of pesticides in their body. But just to be clear, I'm in no way discouraging fruit and vegetable consumption. Even if you just have access to non-organic fruits and vegetables, non-organic produce is better than no produce. But if you have a choice, then locally grown organic is the best. And then, you can top your salad with, a can of beans or chickpeas or some other veggies like broccoli or, some toasted walnuts. If you've never tried toasting walnuts, you are in for a treat. The food manufacturers can't sell toasted walnuts because they basically have no shelf life. But what you do is you take raw organic walnuts in a single layer on a baking tray like in a toaster oven in a 350 degrees preheated oven for 5 minutes till they're golden brown. Not brown, but golden brown, and it really brings out the flavor and aroma of walnuts. So, throw those on your salad. Or if you haven't had your flax smoothie for the morning, you can, sprinkle on some ground flax and basically whatever you're eating, bake those or the Parmesan cheese, whatever. But what about a dressing? Well, you can certainly buy one, but I think you can make a healthier, cheaper, tastier dressing yourself. This is where silken tofu comes in. Silken or Japanese tofu comes in these little aseptic packages such that, again, you can keep these, store them for a year on your shelf, no refrigeration necessary, unopened, so they're very convenient, and have this really kind of silky, velvety texture, so it makes it great for sauces and dressing. So let me show you my favorite dressing, a lemon tahini dressing. So you take a box of the silken tofu, there's about 12 ounces, right? Add a quarter cup of tahini. Tahini is a sesame seed paste, basically peanut butter, but instead of peanut butter, it's sesame seeds. Then add about a quarter cup of fresh lemon juice. This is about the amount of lemon juice found in like 2 lemons. All right? 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. 1 clove of garlic chopped up. 2 teaspoons of a nice mellow miso. 2 teaspoons of a sweetener, I just use sugar, and a half teaspoon of dried dill. And let us blend that up. Add about a half cup of water. If you thought, oh, I can never eat a whole bag of spinach, you haven't tried my dressing. Okay, soup, salad, sandwich time. First thing you got to do is start out with a decent bread, which means whole grain bread. Right? Corporations will try to trick you, right? So they'll use words like multi-grain to make it sound healthy. But then you look at the first ingredient, and of course they would never say white flour because everyone knows that it's not good for you. So instead they'll use, words like unbleached, stone ground, enriched wheat flour, which means white flour. Right? I mean, but if it's enriched, what's the problem? Well, again, it's enriched with 5 vitamins and minerals, whereas the phytonutrient content of white flour is 200 to 300 times less than whole wheat. And the corporations know you're looking for the healthy stuff, so they'll, so to white bread, they'll add coloring agents like caramel color or raisin syrup or molasses to make it look darker, healthier, when it may be just colored white bread, right? So you need to look at the ingredients. And the first ingredient, the first word in the ingredient should be whole, W-H-O-L-E. Whole wheat, whole oats, whole rye, whatever. Right? Now, what goes inside the sandwich? Well, hey, I mean, PB&J is fine. Peanut butter, again, we got to get our nuts in for the day. And then, of course, there's, we talked about the, tuna salad sandwich. That Compassionate Cook recipe book has a great eggless egg salad sandwich that you can make with firm tofu. We talked about the lunch meats. But, those veggie lunch meats are, highly processed foods. I mean, better than lard-laden lunch meats, but, but still, there are healthier options out there. Even tofu is a processed food, meaning that, some of the nutrients found in the original soybean are lost in the processing, making it to tofu. Now, but, I mean, the soybean is so nutritious, you can process the heck out of it and still really nutritious. But, let's compare the nutritional value of tofu to a whole soy food like tempeh. Tempeh, like miso, it's a fermented whole soy product. Tempeh, though, has less sodium than miso and has this chunky texture and kind of a nutty flavor. How do you prepare it, though? Well, my favorite recipe for tempeh has 2 ingredients, tempeh and hot sauce. This is a nice wild rice tempeh. We cut off some slices here. Throw them in a bowl. Pour some hot sauce on top. Now you can let this marinate for a while. I'm going to turn the heat on here. You can let this marinate for a few hours, or I just throw it in a skillet. Now you can bake or broil it as well. For a couple minutes, but I just kind of like throwing it in a non-stick pan and moving it around until it's kind of dry and a little crispy, so you get this nice kind of buffalo wing flavor. So I call this my buffalo tempeh strips. tempeh's got 85% more fiber than tofu. About twice the protein, twice the trace minerals, more of the B vitamins, and tofu is a healthy food. Tempeh is just healthier. All right, these are about done, I think. So let me take my bread, and again, this is whole wheat bread. I will look at the ingredients to make sure, indeed, organic whole wheat flour, very important. Put on my lettuce, my tomato. Boy, that lettuce looks a little green. My buffalo tempeh strips. Oh, if they make it to the sandwich, I just eat them straight. And then maybe a little of that vegan mayonnaise or some slices of avocado if you're really going fancy. And then there you go, one of my favorite sandwiches. Actually, that's my second favorite sandwich. My favorite sandwich spread is hummus, a Middle Eastern chickpea dip. Even Socrates talked about the wonders of the stuff. Now, you can buy it in the store, but it's kind of expensive, and it really only has 4 ingredients in it. Chickpeas, or garbanzo beans, tahini, lemon juice, and garlic. So you can kind of juggle those just to fit you just right. Start out with a can of chickpeas. I just pour the whole thing in, juice and all. Then a quarter cup of tahini, that sesame seed paste, 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, about the juice of 1 lemon, and 1 clove of garlic chopped up. Blend that up. One of the only ways to check to see if it's done is and then you taste it. So if it's not garlicky enough, add more garlic. Not lemony enough, add more lemon. Now, see, it has kind of a, I don't know, it has a kind of a grainy texture. Some people don't mind that. If you want the kind of fluffy, whipped texture that you get when you buy at the store, you can add some oil. You can add some olive oil or some flaxseed oil, and again, kind of whip it up and get that more fluffy texture. And once you have your hummus, then you can, dip veggies or whole grain crackers in it, slather it on a sandwich. Sandwiches don't have to be bread. They can be, vegetables stuffed inside of a pita or whole wheat tortillas. What about some other quick lunch ideas? Well, how about a yam or sweet potato? 1/2 of one sweet potato has 100% of your vitamin A for the day in the form of beta-carotene. This consumer group called the Center for Science and Public Interest actually ranked dozens of vegetables in terms of their nutritional content, and sweet potatoes shot to a surprise finish at #1. Oh, we better get some of these into our diet. Thankfully, it's totally easy. All we do is we take one, we poke it, throw it in the microwave for 5 minutes and let it cool down for another 5 minutes. You can, cut it in half, drizzle it with a little maple syrup, a dash of cinnamon or something. What I do is I take them right hot out of the microwave and, in cold Boston winters, put them in my pockets as hand warmers, and then, later on in the day, sitting at the bus stop or anything, take it out and just eat it. Tasty, healthy, nutritious, filling. What else? Instant bean burrito. If you got a jar of salsa, that can of organic refried vegetarian beans and some whole wheat tortillas, and you're all set. Except for the veggies, right? We always want to tuck some greens in there, right? There's no dish that cannot be made healthier by adding some dark leafy greens, right? Speaking of beans and bean burritos, one can have, veggie franks and beans. You chop up some your favorite veggie dogs, and in 5 minutes you have a meal in the microwave, right? Of course, adding some greens, some chopped fresh or frozen spinach. Always got to have your greens at every meal if you possibly can. Mashed potatoes and gravy. Well, there's that wonderful, that chicken-flavored gravy, right? I mean, you could put that stuff on dog turds, make them taste good. Absolutely wonderful. But again, throw some steamed veggies on top. If you have a steamer, you can steam your vegetables. But, actually, if you just steam them in the microwave, it actually retains more nutrients, right? So you throw some spears of broccoli or something in a microwave, put in a microwave-proof dish, throw a plate on top with a little water at the bottom, put it in your microwave for a few minutes until it's nice, tender, and crisp, and actually retains more nutrients. So you can throw that on to your mashed potatoes or anything else. Or how about spaghetti for lunch? But well, does it have to be whole wheat spaghetti? Isn't that kind of grainy and gross? Well, you know, actually, I don't like promoting brands, but there actually is this one brand that does seem to do it right. I don't even know how you pronounce it. Bionature, Bionature. But they make this whole wheat pasta that isn't grainy. I mean, it tastes like regular pasta, but again, has so much more phytonutrients in it, right? Then you take this, you know, a jar of sauce, you know, you have some frozen veggies. Again, you know, you don't have to skimp on healthy eating just because you haven't gone shopping. You can have all these things always available for you at all times. Maybe some, you know, the meatballs, a little, you know, the Parmesan on top. All right, before we hit supper, what about healthy snacks? You know, healthy snacks may seem a contradiction in terms, but it really isn't. For example, I mean, what could be more convenient than, you know, fresh fruits or veggies, right? Nature's original fast food, you know, a banana or an orange. I mean, it even comes conveniently packaged in a, you know, biodegradable container, right? Or, you know, grapes, berries, cherries, cherry tomatoes, nature's perfect finger food, right? And don't forget dried fruits, right? A little box of raisins or, you know, dried apricots or figs or prunes. So fresh fruit, dried fruit, even frozen fruit. You can get these wonderful black cherries, these frozen black cherries. My mom actually told me this, showed me, and you can just suck on them better than popsicles. You can take grapes and freeze them and, you know, suck on them and let them melt. I mean, kids just love them, right? Or in terms of veggies, you know, carrot sticks dipped in hummus or broccoli florets in a little, you know, creamy dip like the dressing we made before. Or, you know, that sweet potato for a snack. You know, the secret to is to have healthy snacks in view and in reach. Right? If you have a bowl of fresh fruit on the table, right, and you're like me, you don't like to see things go bad, then, you know, you'll go and you'll eat it. You know, the first thing you should see when you open your fridge is pre-washed, pre-cut, you know, veggies in bags, so that, you know, when you have the munchies, you are just surrounded by healthy, nutritious food. If you're in the mood for kind of crispy, crunchy snacks, then you roasted or toasted nuts, sunflower seeds, trail mix, or, you know, whole grain pretzels or crackers or matzah, or air pop popcorn. You go to the movie theater, and odds are they are popping in saturated fat-laden coconut oil. In fact, a typical large, you know, movie popcorn has 80 grams of fat in it, 50 of which are saturated. That's like a half a cup of lard's worth of saturated fat, right? And that's unbuttered, right? Put on that golden flavor, and you're talking about a cup of lard's worth of saturated fat. Don't let your movie ticket be a one-way ticket to an early grave. Air pop your own and bring it with you. Problem with air pop popcorn is then people, you know, pour, you know, butter on top or something. It's like salads. They take a perfectly wonderful food, but then add, you know, saturated fat and cholesterol-laden dressings on top, right? So my favorite healthy topping for popcorn is nutritional yeast. Nutritional yeast is another nutrition-packed superfood. It is just packed with B vitamins and trace minerals. Nutritional yeast has this kind of nice, pleasant, cheesy taste, which is just great for popcorn. Now, it's pasteurized, so it's inactive yeast, so it's fine for people with yeast intolerance. It's nothing to do with Candida yeast. It's a different family. It is related to brewer's yeast, but without that bitter hops flavor, right? So you get all the nutrition of brewer's yeast, but without that nasty, bitter flavor. I prefer Red Star brand's vegetarian support formula nutritional yeast because it's fortified with B12 and can be a convenient way to get your vitamin B12 for the day. You can get this in bulk at a natural food store. Problem is how to get these dried flakes of nutritional yeast to actually stick to your dry air pop popcorn. You know, some people do just, you know, spray their popcorn with like a butter-flavored cooking spray, or spritz their popcorn with, you know, soy sauce or water in a spray bottle or something, then put on the yeast, or, you know, herbs and spices, garlic powder, chili powder, you know, onion soup mix, you know, whatever you want to put on your popcorn. You know, but I actually just like making my own golden flavor by mixing nutritional yeast in warm water. So basically kind of in a 1-to-1 ratio. So I take a tablespoon of nutritional yeast, a tablespoon of warm water, just mix it up, and then drizzle that over my popcorn, and then put a few more, you know, flakes of yeast on top, or some salt. Just fantastic. Now that we just had some salty popcorn, what about healthy beverages, right? Well, the best thing to drink is water. Yeah, drink lots of water. No, really. A big California study came out involving thousands of people, found that those that drank at least 5 glasses of water a day had half the cardiac mortality, right? Half the fatal stroke risk. Wow, right? Again, you want to cut your risk of dying from the #1 killer in the United States. All you have to do is drink 5 glasses of water every day. And if that seems kind of boring to, put in a slice of lemon or lime or, tangerine or something to kind of spruce up the flavor. Green tea is also a good choice. More and more evidence is accumulating that the flavonoids in green tea may be particularly beneficial. Flavonoids are these wonderful anti-tumor, anti-inflammatory, anti-aging, antioxidant phytonutrients that seem to be concentrated in the plant that they get green tea from. I encourage everyone to drink 2 cups of green tea every day. In fact, let's add it to our checklist. I don't recommend drinking green tea with food, though. Unfortunately, tea can interfere with iron absorption, so I only recommend drinking green tea between meals. Milk is nature's perfect food for baby cows. A superbly engineered fluid designed to, basically can take a 65-pound calf in a few months, turned into a 500-pound cow. So if you need to gain a couple 100 pounds, it's great stuff. But Dr. Benjamin Spock, probably the most esteemed pediatrician of all time, wrote the 2nd best-selling book, second only to the Bible, explicitly does not, in the latest edition, does not recommend giving any milk to children, in fact, to anyone for that matter. Most people in the world can't even digest milk past age 5, which kind of makes sense, right? So most Asian Americans, most African Americans, most Native Americans are lactose intolerant and get gassy, bloated, nauseous, or worse when they drink it. Right? Milk is filled with that artery-clogging saturated fat, these allergenic milk proteins, these milk sugars that are indigestible by most people in the world. Herbicides, pesticides, and, well, yes, the pus. The cow's milk has been linked to diabetes, has been linked to asthma, has been linked to arthritis. Look, we don't drink dog's milk, pig's milk, horse's milk. I mean, even adult cows don't drink cow's milk, right? They're weaned, right? I mean, neither should we. Cow milk is for babies, and of course, baby cows. But where will we get our calcium? True, the #1 source of calcium in the American diet is dairy, but the #1 source of artery-clogging saturated fat is also dairy. It's also the #1 food allergy, right? And so it all depends on what kind of baggage you want with your calcium, right? Twinkies have calcium in it, right? But you wouldn't want to eat Twinkies for your calcium, right? You can get your calcium from milk and then get the saturated fat and cholesterol, antibiotics, and pesticides and all that, or you can get your calcium from dark leafy greens, right? Like kale, bok choy, broccoli. The calcium is actually absorbed better than it is in milk. In fact, those that eat a single serving of dark leafy greens or broccoli every day cut their risk of hip fracture in half. Right? Milk can't say that. In fact, it's even controversial if milk helps bones at all, right? So you can instead, with your calcium in dark leafy greens, get the fiber and the folate and the iron and the antioxidants all without the pus. For those transitioning towards a plant-based lifestyle, you are in good company. Thomas Edison, Albert Einstein, Mark Twain, Thoreau, Schweitzer, Da Vinci, all were vegetarians. Or join vegetarian humanitarians like Albert Schweitzer, or Coretta Scott King, or Dick Gregory, or vegetarian musicians like Tracy Chapman, or Moby, or Prince, or Stevie Wonder, B-52s, Beatles, Bob Dylan, or veggie celebrities from Cameron Diaz to Mary Tyler Moore, from Brad Pitt to David Duchovny, or my favorite, Lisa Simpson. Well, now that your appetite's up, let's do dinner. All right. The way I typically look at a dinner entree is to start out with what most people in the world start out with, some kind of grain, so rice or noodles or pasta. And then, of course, dump on tons of veggies, and then to make this mountain of nutrition irresistibly delicious, smother it with some really savory, wonderful sauce. So whether it's some sweet and sour Thai, or some smoky barbecue fajita, or some Indian curry, whatever. So let's look at those three components of the entree kind of separately. So there's the grains, the vegetables, and the sauce. Right? Let's start with your basic brown rice. If your only experience with brown rice has been this unappetizing, sticky mass, you're in for a treat. First, you got to cook it right, and you got to use the right rice. So if you use long grain brown rice and you cook it correctly, it is much fluffier. So, I mean, one of the few kitchen gizmos I actually did invest in was a rice cooker. Basically, you put in water, put in rice, press a button, and it automatically shuts off when it's done, so you don't have to worry about cooking it or burning it or watching it. So if you find yourself cooking rice a lot, you may want to look into that. But if you don't have a rice cooker, there's basically three ways you can cook rice. You can boil it, you can microwave it, or you can even bake it. Okay? The most common method is boiling. You boil 2 cups of water in a nice sturdy pot with a tight-fitting lid. Pour in a cup of rice, put the cover back on and let it boil again, and then turn it down to low and let it simmer for about 45 minutes. It may be really tempting to kind of peek at the end just to see if the rice is done, but then you let that precious steam escape, which is actually what's cooking the rice. So, and then you'll get sticky rice. So better not to touch it, better not to stir it, just let it go for that 45 minutes. You can also microwave rice by combining basically 1 part rice, 2 parts water in a nice oven, microwave-safe casserole dish with a lid, and then basically microwave it on high for like 5 minutes, and then on medium for like 45 should do it. But the way they teach you to cook rice in culinary school is actually to bake it. Right? So you preheat your oven to 350 degrees, right? Then you place your cup of rice in an oven-proof casserole dish with a nice tight-fitting lid. Add 2 cups of boiling water on top of it, put the lid on, put it in that preheated stove for an hour, and then foolproof rice every single time. And try cooking other grains too, like barley or funky grains like amaranth, the staple of the Aztec Empire, or quinoa, staple of the Inca Empire. You should be able to find these in bulk in your natural food store. Quinoa is actually my favorite grain. Compared to other whole grains, it's got more protein, more zinc, about twice the calcium, 4 times the iron, and it's cute. It cooks up in these little balls, which have this really interesting texture. Basically, you cook it the same way you cook rice. It actually cooks quicker because it's smaller. So basically, it's 1.5 cups of water to 1 cup of quinoa rather than 2 to 1 for rice. And then you cook it for about half the time. So if you want to boil it, again, you boil your 1.5 cups of water, add your cup of quinoa, let it come up to a boil again, then put it down to low and let it simmer for maybe 25 minutes. Again, you can use the microwave method for half the time, or you can bake it for an hour. The only unique thing about quinoa is you actually have to rinse it before you cook it. Quinoa has this natural bitter coating on the outside that you really should rinse off because it'll kind of ruin the flavor. So basically, you take your cup of quinoa, you put it in a big bowl, pour water over it, and swish it around, and then pour it in a strainer, then back in the bowl. You may have to do that a couple times until basically the water comes out clear. And although it sounds like quite a pain, once you try quinoa, you will never go back. Okay, so you got your cooked grains, your whole grain pasta or whole grain noodles. Then it's time to pile on the veggies, right? If we just got 1 serving of vegetables for lunch, we got to nail at least a minimum of 4 for dinner. All right. There's no excuse not to eat 9 servings of fruits and vegetables a day, and ketchup, iceberg lettuce, and fruit loops don't count. But beans do. According to the National Cancer Institute, a half a cup of beans is equivalent to a serving of vegetables. Beans are one of nature's most perfect foods, right? It's got all the nutrients, the whole plant, right? That's what the whole plant comes out of, right? And so, they're amazing. High protein, high fiber, low fat, just packed with nutrition. Now, boiling beans from scratch can be kind of a pain, so I typically just use canned beans, but lentils are the quick cooking exception. Lentils come in a variety of colors and sizes. They're these disc-shaped beans. No need to pre-soak or anything. All you do, you take them and you boil them. Take a cup of these lentils, boil them with 3 cups of water for about a half an hour until they're soft, and then they're done. Just like with any dish, you can make it more nutritious by adding greens. Any dish can be made more nutritious by adding beans into the dish. Can't get cheaper than beans for healthy food. If price is an obstacle for you to get your 9 servings of fruits and vegetables in every day, there's a couple things you can do. First of all, for example, check out Asian markets. Right? You can often get dark green leafies for less than $1 a pound. And a pound is like 6 servings right there. Right? Or certainly frozen veggies can be convenient and cheaper as well. Just as nutritious as fresh. Shop in season. You go to a farmer's market as a family outing. And it can be helpful, I think, money-wise, to have some perspective. I know I can walk in and say, kale, $2 a pound, broccoli, $2 a pound. But, potato chips are like $4 a pound and have 150 grams of fat in it, right? Or, if you do the math, like candy bars are like $6 a pound, right? So if you see what people are spending on non-nutritious or even anti-nutritious food, then, $2 for a whole pound of the healthiest stuff on the planet ain't so bad anymore. And if prep time isn't optional, once again, the chopped frozen veggies are already pre-chopped, or sometimes now the grocery stores have, salad bars with pre-chopped veggies as well. And you can make a big pot or whatever, and then just, you can freeze it in kind of meal-sized containers so you can eat throughout the week. What about kids, though? How do you get kids to eat their veggies? Well, first of all, I think you've got to get excited about vegetables yourself. For example, your enthusiasm, your example can be a powerful teacher. You can read vegetable-themed storybooks, grow some in your own garden, or even on the windowsill. Let kids help you pick out veggies at the grocery store. Try to turn vegetables into convenience foods, right? So, like the celery with peanut butter or some, carrot sticks with some creamy dip. If you set out a platter of veggies like that, right before supper when the kids are starving, you'd be amazed at how quickly a platter of veggies can disappear. Some veggies are just kind of fun, like, corn on the cob or peas in a pod or vegetable shish kebab. You can, cut up pieces of vegetables into colorful shapes and make edible art. I don't know. Or, there's always the sneak technique, some spinach or pureed vegetables into a spaghetti sauce, for example, or you can grate some carrots into muffins, that kind of thing, or make green mashed potatoes, right, with some fresh or frozen spinach. I mean, what isn't good with mashed potatoes? Let's spend a moment on greens. I'm just in awe of greens. We should eat them every day. First of all, proper storage. So, when you buy fresh greens, they're literally actually still alive, so they need moisture and air. So, if you tie them up in a plastic bag, they'll rot, and if you just throw them in your fridge, then they'll wilt. And so, ideally, what you want to do is you want to take fresh green leafies and put them in a partially opened or perforated plastic bag with like a damp cloth or a damp piece of paper towel in there to kind of help them. But even if you do that, they'll still only last for a few days. That's why I prefer to use frozen veggies most of the time. Now, some greens can be gritty when you buy them because they're grown in a sandy soil, and so I think the easiest way to clean greens is to just dunk them. You take your spinach or whatever and just dunk them in a big bowl of water, in a sink full of water, and the sediment will drop to the bottom and the greens will float to the top. Now, the tender greens like spinach, watercress, arugula really can just be added at the end of any dish. They just kind of cook instantly and melt into any dish. I like making pesto with them. You can take a bunch of any greens with some basil and one of those packages of silken tofu and some garlic and maybe some toasted walnuts, and you get this rich, creamy pesto. I mean, think what that would do. I mean, you got your greens, your nuts, and your beans all in one sauce, right? Add that to some, whole grain pasta, put some veggies on top, and you have got quite a dish. For less tender greens like broccoli is kind of an honorary dark leafy green because it's just so nutritious. You can just steam it again, using the microwave technique or whatever. But for the tougher, more bitter greens like kale and collard greens, I think need some special help. Now if the bitterness of the greens doesn't bother you, then you can just steam it or microwave it or do whatever you want. But if you just don't like the taste, there are a few food preparation methods you can use to kind of get rid of that bitter taste. The secret is to cook it in some liquid to draw out the bitterness. So take like an inch of water or broth or wine or whatever, bring it to a simmer, and then take your greens. This is actually my favorite green. This is called black kale or lacinated kale or dinosaur kale. Absolutely fantastic. You can take this. I just kind of cut off the first inch or two, which is just a little tough, but then just cut the rest, stems and all, into nice bite-sized pieces, right? Or you can take collard greens. To get the stems out of collard greens, you can just kind of do a V cut to kind of to get the stems out. And then you can actually just roll up your greens and kind of slice them into strips. So let's cook our collards. Let's throw these into our pot here. Now, if you notice, they're already starting to turn a brighter green. Basically, what you're looking for is a brilliant emerald green color and a sweet flavor. What happens to the color is it starts out, kind of your pale green, and then gets really brilliant green, and then if you cook it for too long, kind of gets dull and loses its color. And for the flavor, it starts out kind of bitter, but then actually gets sweet. And then if you cook it too long, it just kind of loses its taste altogether. So you're waiting for that perfect moment when it's this brilliant green color and has a sweet taste. So basically, I just have a cup of water by the side and move it around. And then every minute or two, I take a piece out, throw it in the water, cool it off, and just taste it. And see, it still tastes a little bitter, so it needs a little longer. Mustard greens cook in less than a minute. Kale, collards, a little tougher. Take a few minutes, but keep an eye on them because you want it perfect. When your greens are done, you want to reserve that cooking liquid. In the South, they call it pot liquor. It's just packed with nutrients. I see a lot of fellow cooks just drink it straight. It's so nutrient rich. I actually like to save it and use it for my miso soup. Okay, the greens are cooked. Now, what do you do with them? Well, some people are just minimalist, spritz a little fresh lemon juice on their broccoli spears, or take their greens and a little salt and pepper, or minced garlic, ginger, soy sauce, or some caramelized onions, or some balsamic vinegar. But I like my dishes saucy. These days in the supermarket, there's lots of bottled sauces, from your, basic tomato sauce to like your exotic Thai sesame lime marinade or something. But these sauces can be like $3, $4 a bottle. You can make healthier, tastier, cheaper sauces all on your own. There's a great cookbook called The Saucy Vegetarian, written by Joanne Stepanek, and it's just filled with quick, healthful, delicious sauces. No cook, healthy, delicious. In fact, I just tried the peanut mustard sauce last night. Joanne is like brilliant, and there are literally hundreds of recipes for these easy, delicious sauces in here. Let me just close out by sharing a super easy sauce my friend Kai showed me. So basically here in a dry skillet, I just threw some broccoli, zucchini, and red pepper. I'm actually going to saute in just a little water. I tend to use water to saute. Well, you can use wine or broth. I just tend not to use oil in my cooking because it is just kind of empty calories. I prefer to get my essential fats from whole foods like nuts. So I'm going to cover this, kind of let this steam, and probably be done by the time we make our sauce. So if we just take a cup of water, a tablespoon of black bean garlic sauce. You can buy this not only any Asian store, but even big grocery stores have this as well. So I'm going to put 1 tablespoon in. 1 tablespoon of tahini, that's sesame seed paste, and a tablespoon of cornstarch. And then actually lots of fresh ground pepper, kind of like a ½ teaspoon of fresh ground pepper. And whisk that up. And then let's look at our veggies, see how they're doing. looking good. Again, look how that broccoli got that, brighter green color. Really quite beautiful. I don't like to overcook my veggies. I kind of like them tender, crisp here. These are looking pretty good. So let's just take my sauce in, throw it in, and actually that cornstarch is going to thicken up, and you will get this thick, savory, delicious sauce that tastes like it's straight out of an Asian restaurant. All right. Planning a menu is not the only challenge of moving towards a more plant-based diet. It can be tough to, live in such a meat-laden culture, if you're surrounded by friends and family that aren't supportive. One way you can combat this is by, joining your local vegetarian society and having potlucks and socials and restaurant outings and educational events. There's lots of wonderful vegetarian websites that one can go to. If you're looking for some good books, my favorite book on this topic in terms of dealing with friends, families, holidays, is a book called Living Among Meat Eaters by Carol Adams. Just a phenomenal book. And finally, in conclusion, I just want to say a few words about the self-pressure I see people put themselves under. So, for example, many vegans won't eat honey because a certain number of bees are killed in the production of honey. But if you don't care about the lives of bees, eat all the honey you want, right? Unless you're diabetic or an infant. Some vegans won't eat sugar because some sugar is decolorized with cattle bones. And is that unreasonable? Well, there's lots of good reasons not to eat refined sugar, from, dental cavities to the plight of Haitian sugar workers, right? But that shouldn't get in the way of people trying to reduce their consumption of animal products. This kind of more vegan than thou attitude of, well, you're not really vegetarian, you eat sugar or something, is, I think, really elitist, condescending, and really ultimately self-defeating. As the environmental activist Julia Butterfly Hill has said, being vegan isn't about judgment, it's about joy. Vegetarianism is not about some kind of fanatic personal purity. It's about the animals or your health or the environment. It's about having some perspective. People come up to me and say things like, well, I could never go vegetarian because I could never give up shrimp or something. Well, then don't. Just think what you'd be doing for your health, the animals, the environment, if you gave up all other flesh foods except shrimp. I could never go vegetarian. I could never give up my mom's chicken soup. Fine, don't, right? A false dichotomy. Moving towards a vegetarian or even partly vegetarian diet is a highly personal decision. You should, move at your own pace, whatever you're comfortable with. No one's keeping score but you. And I don't even like to think of it as giving up things. For me, vegetarianism isn't about scarcity. It's about abundance. It's not about constriction, but about liberation. It's not about what we're against, but what we're for. And not for some kind of far-off time, but for right now. For me, going vegetarian is less about becoming something, and more about being true to ourselves. I just want to end with one of my favorite quotes by Joanne Stepanek, actually, who said, quote, "Veganism is not passive self-denial. On the contrary, it instills active and vibrant responsibility for initiating positive social change by presenting a constant challenge to consistently seek out the highest ideal." Thank you for listening, and cheers to your health. Thank you for listening, and cheers to your health.